Last week, I watched a retired couple from Ohio lose $50,000 in 20 minutes at Frankfurt. They did everything tourists are supposed to do. Stayed alert, kept their documents safe, used official services. But they fell for scam number 7 on my list, and by the time they realized what happened, the criminals had vanished. After years of traveling for both business and vacation, I've learned to spot these cons from a mile away. Welcome back to Park and Post. Today I will be sharing the 10 airport scams that catch even experienced travelers off guard. Don't let your dream trip turn into a nightmare. Let's dive in. Number 1. The fake taxi scam. The fake taxi scam is one of the oldest tricks in the book, yet travelers fall for it every single day. Picture this. You've just endured a 12-hour flight. You're exhausted, disoriented, and desperate to get to your hotel. As you exit baggage claim, someone in what appears to be an official taxi uniform approaches you with a friendly smile and professional demeanor. These unlicensed drivers are masters at reading body language. They specifically target first-time visitors to a city, elderly travelers, families with multiple bags, and anyone arriving during late-night hours when official transportation options might seem limited. They'll quote you what seems like a reasonable price up front, maybe even showing you a laminated rate card that looks official. But once you're in their vehicle, the nightmare begins. What makes this scam particularly devastating is how these criminals exploit your trust and vulnerability. They'll take scenic routes that triple your journey time, claim their GPS is malfunctioning, or suddenly discover road closures that require expensive detours. I've documented cases where a 20-minute airport ride turned into a 2-hour odyssey, costing 10 times the legitimate fare. Some fake drivers work in teams. They'll radio ahead to accomplices who create fake traffic jams or road incidents to justify longer routes. The protection is simple but crucial. Only use official taxi stands located inside the airport terminal. Real licensed drivers wait in designated queues with proper identification, vehicle registration, and standardized pricing. They don't prowl the terminal hunting for customers or approach you unsolicited with aggressive sales pitches. Number 2. Currency exchange con. The currency exchange scam preys on one of every traveler's most basic needs, getting local money. These sophisticated operations specifically target travelers who haven't researched current exchange rates or are in a hurry to catch connecting flights. The scammers operate unofficial exchange booths that look remarkably legitimate, complete with professional signage, uniformed staff, and official-looking rate boards. However, their calculators are rigged with pre-programmed false calculations, where they use sleight-of-hand techniques to shortchange you during the counting process. I've seen tourists lose hundreds of dollars in a single transaction, thinking they received a great deal when they actually got robbed in broad daylight. The psychological aspect is crucial. They create urgency by claiming their special rates are only available for a limited time or that banks are closed. Even more sinister are the counterfeit currency operations that provide fake bills designed to look authentic to untrained eyes. These criminals often mix genuine bills with counterfeits, counting quickly to prevent close inspection. They particularly target currencies from countries with similar-looking denominations. I've seen fake Venezuelan bolivars passed off as Colombian pesos and worthless, outdated European currencies sold as current euros. The financial damage extends beyond the immediate loss because banks and businesses will reject counterfeit money, leaving you stranded without valid currency. Your protection strategy must be proactive. Check current exchange rates on reliable financial apps before traveling, and only use official exchange services inside the secure airport terminal area. Count all bills slowly and carefully. Inspect them for security features like watermarks and security strips, and never feel pressure to complete a transaction quickly. Number 3. The helpful porter scam. The fake porter scam is particularly insidious because it exploits basic human decency and cultural politeness. These criminals position themselves strategically near baggage carousels, exits, and transportation areas, specifically targeting elderly travelers, families with children and multiple bags, and business travelers who appear wealthy or time-pressured. They approach with seemingly genuine offers to help, often wearing unofficial uniforms or badges that look convincing from a distance. The scam works because they physically grab your luggage before you can refuse their services, creating an awkward social situation where many people feel obligated to accept help they never requested. Once they have control of your bags, they provide unwanted assistance like pushing carts, carrying bags to taxi stands, or offering directions while walking alongside you. The payment demands come at the worst possible moment, when you're trying to board transportation or enter your hotel, making it difficult to argue or escape. What makes this scam particularly effective is how these criminals manipulate social pressure and cultural expectations. They'll create embarrassing public scenes if you refuse to pay, loudly claiming you're trying to cheat them after they helped you. Some pose as official airport employees, complete with fake ID badges and clipboards, offering to escort you through customs or immigration processes. They exploit travelers' uncertainty about airport procedures and fear of missing flights or making mistakes with official processes. I've witnessed cases where these fake porters led travelers to unofficial inspection areas where accomplices waited to conduct elaborate document verification scams. Only accept assistance from uniformed, official airport staff with proper identification badges visible at all times. If anyone touches your luggage without permission, immediately and firmly say no, thank you, while maintaining control of your belongings. Real airport employees don't aggressively demand tips or create confrontational situations when travelers decline assistance. Number 4, SIM card and internet scam. In our hyper-connected world, internet access isn't a luxury. It's a necessity that scammers ruthlessly exploit. The SIM card and internet scam specifically targets tech-dependent travelers who need immediate connectivity for work, family communication, or navigation services. These operations set up unofficial booths near airport exits and transportation hubs, staffed by friendly salespeople who promise immediate internet solutions at competitive prices. They particularly target business travelers who appear stressed about staying connected, tourists who need maps and translation apps, and anyone frantically trying to connect to spotty airport Wi-Fi. The scam works because they provide products that seem functional initially, SIM cards that show signal strength, and Wi-Fi devices that appear to connect properly. However, the service typically fails within hours, leaving you stranded without communication when you need it most. The most dangerous variant of this scam involves malware installation that turns your device into a data harvesting tool. When you insert their SIM card or connect to their Wi-Fi hotspot, malicious software automatically installs on your phone, tablet, or laptop. This malware can access your photos, contacts, email accounts, banking apps, and stored passwords, transmitting everything to criminal networks for identity theft and financial fraud. I've documented cases where travelers had their entire digital lives compromised within minutes of using fake internet services. The criminals are particularly clever about timing. They know you won't discover the problems until you're far from the airport and unable to confront them. Your protection strategy requires planning ahead. Arrange international roaming plans with your home carrier before traveling. Research official carrier stores inside airport terminals for legitimate SIM cards, and test any purchase connectivity services thoroughly before leaving the store. Never insert unknown SIM cards into devices containing sensitive information, and consider carrying a separate travel phone for international connectivity. Number 5, the friendly local overcharge. The friendly local overcharge scam is psychological manipulation at its finest, designed to exploit travelers' desire for authentic local experiences and insider knowledge. These skilled con artists position themselves in airport lounges, cafes, and waiting areas, identifying solo travelers who appear open to conversation and recommendations. They're masters at reading social cues. They target people who seem lonely, excited about exploring a new destination, or uncertain about local customs and attractions. The initial conversation feels completely natural and helpful, discussing local culture, hidden gems, and authentic experiences that tourists usually miss. They build genuine rapport and trust, often sharing personal stories about their city and asking about your travel plans with seeming genuine interest. The scam unfolds gradually as they enthusiastically recommend specific restaurants, shops, tour operators, or services, claiming these are special places where locals go and tourists get treated well. The financial manipulation happens through kickback arrangements with businesses that charge tourists premium prices while paying substantial commissions to these friendly locals for each referral. You'll pay 200 to 400% more than actual market rates for meals, souvenirs, tours, or services, while your new friend collects hefty referral fees from business owners. The psychological aspect makes this scam particularly effective. You genuinely like and trust the person making recommendations, so you don't question the prices or seek alternative opinions. Some operations are sophisticated networks where the same criminal organization owns both the referral agents and the overpriced businesses, maximizing profits from every tourist interaction. I've seen travelers spend entire vacation budgets in single evenings because they trusted friendly recommendations without researching actual market prices. Protection requires healthy skepticism balanced with openness to local culture. Be polite but cautious with unsolicited advice from strangers. Research average local prices for common tourist activities before traveling, and always get multiple opinions before making significant purchases or booking expensive services. Number 6. The free souvenir trap. The free souvenir scam exploits fundamental human psychology, our difficulty refusing gifts, and our desire to avoid confrontation in public spaces. These criminals strategically position themselves near airport exits, taxi stands, and hotel pickup areas, specifically targeting families with children, couples on romantic trips, and anyone who appears kind-hearted or culturally sensitive. They approach with genuine smiles and seemingly generous spirits, offering beautiful flowers, handmade bracelets, cultural artifacts, or religious items as welcome gifts to their country. The items often appear valuable and authentic, with elaborate stories about their cultural significance or artisanal craftsmanship. Children are particularly vulnerable targets because parents want to create positive cultural experiences and avoid disappointing their kids who get excited about receiving gifts from friendly locals. The trap springs once you accept their free gift. Suddenly, it becomes an expensive purchase you never agree to make. They'll demand payment ranging from modest amounts to hundreds of dollars, depending on their assessment of your financial capacity. If you attempt to return the item or refuse payment, they create embarrassing public scenes, claiming you're trying to steal from poor local artisans or that you've damaged expensive handmade merchandise. Some work in teams where accomplices pose as witnesses or other vendors who support their claims about the item's value and your obligation to pay. The psychological pressure intensifies when they invoke cultural guilt, suggesting that refusing their gift insults their country's hospitality or traditions. I've witnessed travelers pay substantial amounts just to escape uncomfortable situations, especially when traveling with children or elderly family members. Effective protection requires clear boundaries and confident communication. Never accept anything free from strangers in tourist areas. Keep your hands in your pockets when approached by gift bearers, and firmly decline with no, thank you, while continuing to move toward your destination. Number 7, ATM and card skimming. ATM and card skimming represents one of the most financially devastating scams targeting travelers, with the potential to drain entire bank accounts within hours of your card information being compromised. These sophisticated criminal operations install nearly invisible skimming devices on ATMs, card readers, and payment terminals throughout airports, hotels, and tourist areas. The technology has become so advanced that skimmers can perfectly replicate the look and feel of legitimate card slots, making detection extremely difficult for untrained users. They particularly target ATMs in high-traffic tourist locations because travelers are often distracted by luggage, stressed about time constraints, and unfamiliar with local ATM designs that would make suspicious modifications obvious to regular users. The criminals use hidden cameras positioned to record PIN entries, sometimes built into fake brochure holders or promotional materials placed strategically near keypads. Last week, I watched a retired couple from Ohio lose $50,000 from his ATM and card skimming at Frankfurt. The financial devastation unfolds rapidly once your card information is harvested. Criminals can clone your card and begin making purchases or cash withdrawals within minutes of capturing your data. International travelers are particularly vulnerable because bank fraud detection systems may initially interpret unusual foreign transactions as legitimate travel spending rather than fraudulent activity. By the time you discover the unauthorized charges, criminals may have drained multiple accounts if you use the same PIN for different cards or if they successfully harvested information from multiple payment methods. The sophisticated operations often involve international networks that can simultaneously use your card information across multiple countries, making investigation and recovery extremely complex. Your protection strategy requires constant vigilance and smart banking practices. Only use ATMs located inside bank branches or secure airport areas with good lighting and security cameras. Carefully inspect card slots and keypads for loose or unusual components before inserting your card. Always cover your PIN entry with your free hand. And immediately notify your bank of any suspicious charges regardless of the amount. Number 8. Fake security checks. The fake security check scam represents a particularly sinister form of fraud that exploits travelers' respect for authority and fear of legal troubles in foreign countries. These criminal operations involve sophisticated role-playing where fraudsters dress in convincing uniforms, carry official-looking identification, and demonstrate detailed knowledge of airport security procedures to appear legitimate to unsuspecting travelers. They strategically target passengers who appear confused about airport layouts, unfamiliar with local security protocols, or nervous about customs and immigration processes. The approach typically occurs in transitional areas between official checkpoints, where travelers might reasonably expect additional security screening. They identify vulnerable targets by observing passenger behavior, looking for people who seem lost, first-time international travelers, or anyone carrying expensive electronics, jewelry, or large amounts of cash that would make attractive theft targets. The scam escalates when these fake officials request private inspections of valuables, documents, or electronic devices, leading victims to unofficial areas where accomplices wait to complete elaborate theft or identity fraud schemes. They create compelling narratives about new security regulations, random screening procedures, or special requirements for certain nationalities or destinations. During these fake inspections, they photograph or photocopy important documents like passports and credit cards, install malware on electronic devices, or simply steal valuable items while creating distractions. Some operations are so sophisticated they include fake detection equipment, official-looking forms to sign, and staged radio communications with supposed supervisors to enhance credibility. The psychological manipulation is intense. They create urgency about potential legal consequences for noncompliance while positioning themselves as helpful officials trying to expedite your passage through security. Protection requires understanding legitimate security procedures. Real airport security screening always occurs at official checkpoints with multiple uniformed staff, proper equipment, and clear signage. Never accompany anyone claiming to be security personnel to private areas. Always request to see official identification and badge-s, and verify any unusual requests with airport information desks or your airline representatives. Number 9. The wrong change con. The wrong change con appears deceptively simple, but represents one of the most widespread forms of systematic theft targeting international travelers who are unfamiliar with local currency and vulnerable due to travel stress and time pressure. These operations are typically run by businesses within airports, hotels, restaurants, and tourist shops where travelers make frequent small purchases and are unlikely to carefully verify change due to rushing to catch flights, language barriers, or general confusion about foreign currency denominations. The scam works because criminals exploit the mathematical anxiety many people experience with unfamiliar money, combined with social pressure to complete transactions quickly in busy environments. They particularly target travelers from countries with significantly different currency systems, knowing that mental conversion calculations become difficult when you're tired, stressed, or dealing with complex exchange rates between dramatically different monetary values. The financial impact accumulates significantly across multiple transactions throughout a trip. What seems like minor shortchanging of a few dollars per purchase can result in substantial losses when multiplied across numerous airport meals, souvenir purchases, and service payments. These operations often involve trained staff who can quickly assess a customer's familiarity with local currency and adjust their tactics accordingly. They use rapid counting techniques, confusing verbal explanations, and strategic distractions to prevent customers from carefully verifying change amounts. Some establishments have systematic policies where staff routinely shortchange foreign tourists while providing correct change to locals, knowing that visitors are unlikely to return and complain about small discrepancies. I have spoken in my previous videos cases where travelers lost significant amounts over single trips through accumulated wrong change across multiple vendors. Your protection strategy requires preparation and vigilance. Study local currency denominations and their visual characteristics before traveling. Use currency conversion apps to quickly verify transactions. Count change carefully before leaving any counter regardless of time pressure. And preferentially use credit cards with fraud protection for purchases when possible rather than cash transactions. Number 10. The broken meter taxi scam. The broken meter taxi scam represents a classic transportation fraud that has adapted and evolved across decades of international travel, specifically targeting exhausted passengers who prioritize reaching their destination over negotiating fare pricing. This scam is little different from the fake taxi scam that I previously mentioned. These operations involve taxi drivers who claim their meters are malfunctioning, broken, or not required for certain types of trips, then quote flat rates that are typically 300 to 500% higher than legitimate metered fares for the same journey. They particularly target travelers arriving on late flights when public transportation options are limited, passengers with significant luggage who feel dependent on taxi services, and tourists who appear unfamiliar with local transportation norms and pricing standards. The psychological manipulation involves creating urgency and limited options. They position themselves as your only available transportation solution, while other legitimate taxis are mysteriously unavailable or inappropriately distant from your pickup location. More sophisticated versions of this scam involve meters that are actually functional, but have been illegally modified to run at accelerated rates, starting at inflated base amounts, or calculating distances using inflated per kilometer charges that exceed legal maximums. These technical modifications are nearly impossible for tourists to detect because the meters appear to function normally while systematically overcharging throughout the journey. Some operations involve drivers who selectively use broken meter claims based on their assessment of passenger vulnerability. They'll use legitimate meters for local customers while exploiting tourists with fake malfunction stories. The route manipulation aspect compounds the overcharging, where drivers take unnecessarily long paths to justify higher flat rates or extend journey times on rig meters. I've spoken on many of my travel scam videos where airport taxi rides cost more than international flights, particularly in destinations where taxi regulation is minimal and tourist enforcement is lacking. Effective protection requires advanced preparation and confident negotiation. Research standard taxi rates for your specific airport-to-destination journey before traveling. Insist on meter usage or find alternative transportation options. I always photograph taxi license plates and driver identification before beginning trips. And also consider ride-sharing applications that provide upfront pricing transparency when available in your destination. I can tell you that successful criminals don't target travelers randomly. They systematically identify vulnerability patterns that make certain people easy marks for specific types of fraud. The most frequently victimized travelers share 3 key characteristics. They appear geographically disoriented or unfamiliar with local customs. They display visible signs of wealth through expensive luggage, electronics, or clothing, and they demonstrate uncertainty about normal prices, procedures, or cultural expectations in their destination. Understanding these vulnerability markers is crucial because scammers are trained observers who can assess and categorize potential targets within seconds of visual contact. Your travel security knowledge could save you thousands of dollars and prevent your dream vacation from becoming a nightmare experience. Remember that when you're uncertain about any situation during travel, airport information desks are staffed by legitimate employees whose job is helping travelers avoid exactly these types of problems. Safe travels and stay vigilant out there. See you in next video.